Hey everybody, it is American Idol Unaired, the singers you didn't see. I am your host, Bennett Shear, and today's singer that you didn't see on this past season of American Idol is Natalia Bonfini. Natalia, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, good pronunciation. I'm very surprised you did that
Oh,
flawlessly.
I was just thinking to myself, I hope you nail it, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I did. How's it going?
It's going good. It's not like I feel like it's been a while since I've had an idol interview, so I it's sort of exciting to be doing it again. And as I was setting up my Zoom and getting the camera ready and shutting all my doors and cleaning my apartment, I was like, this is giving me the anxiety of my audition again, which is
Well, we're just here to reflect and talk about everything, and it's fun vibes, So first and foremost, before you entered this television experience, you are a musician, and I would love to know about your love for music and where that started. So if you could just give us that sort of music intro.
Yeah, so I am sort of a predominantly blues musician. I love and rock. I love Janis and Van Morrison and Ray Charles, a lot of the old school stuff, Amy Winehouse. But sort of I started playing acoustic guitar when I was about 7. My dad was a drummer, so I just wanted to be in that like musical realm with him. I loved that musicians were always coming over. Since the drummer has the most gear, I felt like we were like the landing spot for people to come and jam at our house. So I sort of just fell into it that way, and been playing ever since. I play full time for my career, so I do like lots of local acoustic shows at bars or weddings, things like that. So now I'm here. My journey for Idol started like so long ago. So I'm 25. And it's so funny because going into the show, a lot of these younger contestants who are 16, 17 years old, first of all, look at me, like I'm so old, which is like, that's taking heart. But a lot of them had never even seen the show. And I have been watching the show since day one. I remember voting on my like phone call for Kelly Clarkson. So I've always loved the show. My family has always been huge, huge supporters of the show. So I think more than anything, I did it for them. But I had actually tried out for the show quite a few times. Once when I was 16, and that was still in person when you like wait in those long lines of hours and hours of people. And definitely a lot has changed since then. And then again when I was 18. And then last year, for season 19, a producer had reached out to me on social media and had asked me to audition. And I was sort of hesitant just because I was so young when I did it before, and it didn't go exactly how I had wanted it to, which looking back, I'm glad it didn't because I was a very different artist back then. So I auditioned for season 19 and I made it all the way through to the final producer round. And then they decided not to have me on the show for season 19. So then someone reached out for season 20 and I was instantly like, I'm not doing it. I've had my run. I love Idol, but I'm just going to watch it. And my producer, we ended up being great friends, he kept pushing me. He was like, please, please, this year we're going to do it your way, the song you want. Like, I'm not going to sway you either way, which was sort of like something that I had experienced in the past when I had auditioned. And it ended up going well this year.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's something about season 20
I know.
that that 20th anniversary magic was in the air.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and it must have been exciting. Like, you definitely got to experience something that not many people can say that they did. I mean, the numbers this year, just how many people auditioned from the beginning with some like 100,000 people to get down to as far as you did. That in itself is amazing. And I wonder, like, if you were even expecting just year after year, was it kind of mind blowing to even be in front of the judges and with everybody?
Yeah, I think, like I said, doing what I wanted really made such a huge difference. So when I auditioned for season 19, of course, like I think a lot of times the most successful people on Idol are maybe more the pop or country people. So going into it, I really had no expectations because in my head, I'm like, I'm not what they're looking for, and I know that. So I'm just gonna go and have fun. And then in previous seasons, like when I auditioned for 19, I really tried to be something I wasn't. They really wanted me to sing like a Bruno Mars song or something that, of course, is an awesome song, but just not my style. So I think that really shows when you're not being authentic to who you are. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's true. So I went in this year being like, I'm going to sing the song that I want, even if it probably won't get me as far as I want, because I'd rather go out doing something that I love. And if it presents any opportunities, it's not going to present a country opportunity or a pop, it's going to present my type of opportunity. So that's sort of what I stuck to. And I think I was the most successful that I've ever been because of that.
And how amazing that it's because of that, that because you stuck to your true guns, like you did what you knew was you, Natalia Bonfini, and it was not about just trying to fit into that mold. And to make it that far, that must have felt amazing. As far as those first initial producer rounds before the judges, I'm wondering what your song choices were, because again, you really were more in your comfort zone this time.
Yeah, so the producer that reached out to me, we went through songs for like probably 2 months, just singing different songs all the time, trying to find the perfect fit. And that's hard because you have to have 3 songs prepared going into it. So you're not finding the perfect fit for one, but multiple songs, and you have to sort of crunch it down into like, I think it's 90 seconds or something like that. So it's hard to get like, you want them to feel connected to you, but you also have to get to the climax of the song and sort of make this whole story in 90 seconds. So that's a whole thing. So I ended up, for my first song, I chose Whipping Post by the Allman Brothers, which again is so funny because most of the younger contestants didn't even know. They're like, who are the Allman Brothers?
Oh my gosh.
um, and then for my backup was Hand in My Pocket by Alanis Morissette, which I actually ended up singing in Hollywood Week. And then my third choice was an original song, just to sort of showcase that I have that aspect as well.
And I'm wondering about the feedback that the producers gave you. Was it very extensive? Was it more just like you're through, you can go to the next round?
Yeah, so the first, I think I did 2 or 3 rounds before I got to Megan, who is sort of the showrunner, and she's
Yeah.
definitely the one you want to impress.
Yes.
Um, and I got a lot of the first initial Zooms. They were super long. They ask you 1,000,001 questions because they're not just trying to find the best singer. They want a great singer, but you're an American Idol, so somebody that can like inspire other people, or be a role model to kids or people that want to sing, things like that. So they want to make sure you're sort of a well-rounded human in general. So they ask you so many questions. And so by the time I got to Megan, it was like a 5 minute Zoom call. And I was expecting her to ask me all these questions, but of course, she had all the information about me beforehand. And I think honestly, she had already made her decision before singing, because at this point, she's seen videos of me. And so I just sang my song, and she said, I think the only thing she asked me was, why do I want to be here? Why do I want to be on the show? And then she was like, well, we'd love to invite you to the judges. I'm like, do you have any questions for me? I was so nervous.
Wow.
She knew, like, the producers sort of prep everyone. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but as a fan of Idol, what I think is really cool about Megan is that she started on season 2 and then worked her way up over the years and just stayed every year since then. And now she's running the whole show. I
Yeah.
think that's super cool.
Well, I think it's too really telling of how awesome the show is. Because there were quite a few people. One of the other sort of head producers right underneath Megan has been on the show for all 20 seasons. And that just means that they love their job. I mean, they're
Yeah.
obviously, Idol as a production is doing something right to keep people
Yeah.
around for 20 years. And you end up spending actually so much more time with the production team than the judges, of course, that you get really close to them, and they're sort of they become your friends, just like the contestants do. So that was a really cool aspect of it.
Yeah, and it's amazing too that like to have to oversee so many elements from the contestants to the judges to the other crew members. I mean, that's to have to run the whole show, like that's a huge undertaking. And when you see the finished product, it's like, wow, so much you didn't even see, but at the same time to be able to have a beautifully finished product edited down to this 2 hour spectacle that you see every Sunday, like that's all done by this one person, like and of course all the other crew members.
I don't know, like, and she was never stressed. She was never yelling. Honestly, she was always there. I'm pretty sure she was in my audition, but she sort of just lurks in the shadows and like keeps everything running without saying much. So she definitely has it down to the science. And I mean, they do a great job of knowing like who is gonna pull on America's heartstrings. And yeah, so the production was great. I had no bad experiences at all with that.
As far as actually getting through the initial producer rounds and going to audition in front of the judges, which city did you go to?
So they gave me a choice, and Nashville was my first choice because I had never been.
Mm.
And also I thought I might stand out a bit because I figured 90% of the people would be country. And I feel like that did sort of work in my favor. I think it was a good portion. I actually auditioned on the same day as Hunter Girl and Leah. So it was cool to see them go to the very end. And yeah, I'm glad I chose Nashville. It was cool. And we didn't get to travel around too much just because they were super strict on COVID. But I did get one day where I got to sort of go out and do the touristy thing in Nashville. So that was cool.
That's fun. I love Nashville.
Yeah.
Been
Oh, I definitely want to go
many
back.
times. Yeah, oh, it's great. Well, being there, of course, it's super busy. It's not just like a day of filming and you're out. I mean, you're there for days at a time. I mean, they want to get interviews done, B-roll, and in some cases, you're out after a day of just, your day one. You go in, you sing, you're done. But sometimes you're waiting for days on end for you to go in front of the judges. So, what was the case for you?
So I think I was there like maybe 5 days, a full week. So the first, we have day zero, which is just going in, sort of doing your COVID test. They take some social media shots and things like that. And that's definitely the most overwhelming day because you're seeing the set, you're seeing where you're going to audition, and it's like you're meeting all these people and you want to be friends with them, but they're also sort of your competition. So that was day zero. And then day one was all the interviews before. So how are you feeling? Let's do some B-roll. Tell us why you did this. That was so just hours and hours of interviews. And I think this year it said it was like a moment like this, like
Yeah.
a sign in the back. So we did all that. And then day, what was it, 2 and 3, something like that. So technically 3 and 4, I don't know. I just showed up when they called me, but I think I auditioned on the fourth day, which was the last day, and I was about like halfway through the day, which I was grateful for because the people that had auditioned before us, I'm pretty sure auditions went till like 11 o'clock or midnight. So I just can't imagine being up at like 4:30 in the morning and then going all the way through the day. So I felt lucky where I was. And the second day of auditions in Nashville was like a way better day. Day
Hmm.
one was, they were tough.
Yeah.
I think like only 25% of the people went through. So we were all like, the judges are obviously in a bad mood and everyone was super stressed out, but I think they were feeling better the next day. I think about 50% of us went through. So yeah, it was good. That was it. And then I think we waited one more day and we did some of that dancing in the street and here's my golden ticket. And I remember I made it through during rush hour. So there was people like driving by and I have to like dance in the road and everyone's honking. And it was definitely like one of the most exciting moments of my life, probably.
Wow. A lot of contestants who auditioned in LA talked about how day one was tough and how intimidating it was to hear no after no. So I find it interesting because on day one, maybe would they be easier? Like they're thinking, oh, it's the beginning, we haven't seen what's coming up yet. We're just going to kind of be easier on these kids and just kind of, yeah, we'll let you through because we haven't really seen what's coming up yet. But it sounds like their approach was more like, well, we don't know what's coming up, so we want to make sure that we don't send too many people through. It sounds
Yeah.
like that was their approach this season.
And I was super nervous going because the two people that went before me was Betty, of course, that we saw on the show, who is like this huge, beautiful personality. And she went through. And like one part of me wants to be happy because we become friends. And then the other part of me is like, well, they can't send another person through after her. So
Right.
they're not going to send me through. And then after Betty was Chloe, who you interviewed, Chloe Solon, on the show. And she has this huge voice. So I went in being like, there's no way they're sending 3 people in a row. But I mean, I think I don't know how they if it really is like planned, okay, 2 people go through, one person doesn't, whatever, or they can send as many as they want. I don't know, but it did feel pretty authentic. Like they were just not told what to do. They were sort of just
Right.
going with their gut. Yeah.
I wouldn't know because I'm not there, and even you being a contestant wouldn't know. But the show makes it seem like they can just kind of send however many people they want through, and then Hollywood Week is all about cutting it down. I've also heard sometimes they actually on some of these shows they do make cuts before the contestants even get to Hollywood Week. Like they make like smaller cuts, like they take like 20 people out or 30 people out, and that's just the reality of being on a TV show. Sometimes is like if there's so many people, they say, well, we have to cut the numbers down a little bit. But for the most part, I mean, I guess it must be nice to be a part of a show where like I think the pressure is probably a little bit lower, I imagine, in the auditions, whereas like The Voice, they're trying to build teams of like 48, so you know that if a coach only has like two more slots, like you have to fill those slots. So I don't know.
Yeah, the pressure, I mean, I was always nervous, but the pressure of like, okay, there only needs to be 24 of us at the end of this didn't really happen until duets. And I was like, oh my God, they're really making big cuts today. But in terms of, some people getting through the auditions and not making it to Hollywood Week, there was a lot of things that played into that. Like, of course, COVID, which is such a shame. Had so much anxiety about getting COVID throughout this whole thing because I'm like, this could be taken away from me in a
Mm,
second because they were really taking COVID really serious. And another thing was that we did a lot of like we had to be seen by a doctor, we had to get a psych evaluation, we had to get a background check. They had a private investigator go through our entire social media. So some people didn't pass those tests, which is totally understandable because they really do like this insane deep dive into your life. And then they would ask me questions that I didn't even tell them. They were like, we see that you live at this address. And I'm like, how do you know that?
yeah.
So I think a lot of people, they had to deal with that. And so actually getting through from the judges was one thing, but making it to Hollywood Week was a whole other thing.
Right. Yeah, a much bigger gap between the rounds than it appears on TV because getting that golden ticket is not as it's not as easy to just be like, oh, I'm here, you know, and a long period too because it's probably like 2 months between the time you're filming auditions and Hollywood Week.
Yeah, so I think Austin was the first city, maybe Austin or LA, but they had done it back in August. And I didn't audition until November. It was I think
Mm,
towards the end of November, and then we were in Hollywood the first week or two of December. So some people had like 3 months to prepare, and then some people just had 2 weeks, and a lot can happen in 3 months. So um,
mm.
it's just a lot of it was just different circumstances. Everyone's in a different situation in their life.
On the one hand, it's easy to think that that's a competitive advantage to have more time, but do you think there's also an argument to be made that having that adrenaline of having just filmed the auditions, you're kind of more in the idle zone to go into Hollywood Week, just kind of like in it and like let's go, versus maybe having more of a time gap?
Yeah, I think yes to that because you can only prepare so much. You can prepare your first song that you sing, of course. But even like if you don't have an instrument, you can't practice until you're with the pianist or guitarist that's going to play for you. So I think the people who played instruments definitely had the upper hand because I could be practicing in my room until 3 in the morning and they just get those 2 or 3 run throughs with the piano player. So in a sense, yes, more time gives you more time to practice, but once you get past that first round, you can't practice for duets. You have no idea who they're going to partner you with. You have no idea what songs, they give you a list of songs. And also you're exhausted and you just can't practice that feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting the golden ticket and making it to Hollywood Week. I'm curious about like just getting there and the excitement of arriving at the Orpheum. I hear it's even more beautiful in person.
Yeah.
And what was it like to just? I'm sure you're reunited with a lot of people you met in Nashville, and then you're also meeting all these new people from the different cities.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we landed, it was just like contestant city in the airport. Like
Yes.
you could just tell who was there for the show. There was guitars everywhere.
Yeah.
And they definitely didn't try to hide it. Like the cast or the producers, they just had these giant buses and these giant signs for everyone. So immediately getting off the plane, it was super exciting. And I think we got to this fancy hotel. It's like the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in. And Amy, who is if I don't know if anyone's talked about Amy yet, but she's sort of like the contestant liaison. And
Hmm.
she is a very small woman with the loudest, scariest personality of all time. So as soon as we got to the hotel, it was just like Amy screaming and this person this way, this person this way, here's your number. This is what it was sort of chaotic. So when we finally got, I don't even think I saw the Orpheum Theater for the first day or two. It was just so much filming and questions and preparing. So luckily, because of COVID, we all got our own rooms this year, which is really nice because that's
Yeah.
really never happened in Idol history in before COVID. So when I finally got home, I just passed out. Plus, I was on a time difference, so that was a whole other thing. So yeah, I don't think I even got to the Orpheum until the day of my actual performance.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, I actually didn't realize until doing the show how long you guys were there. I mean, Hollywood Week, I figured, you're probably there something like 5 days, but I've heard it can be up to 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, and they have, it's crazy how little they show of so many people because
yeah.
they have hours and hours of video of me. So they put so much work to use so little. Like with David Cook, who was my mentor, I think we had about a 45-minute interview, and
Yeah.
all that is just lost. So yeah, they put a lot of time into the interviews and setup before you even sing.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really awesome that they brought back the alumni mentors and talk about lost footage. I mean, they really didn't show much of that on the Genre Challenge episode, which I was kind of bummed about because I was really looking forward to seeing what the dynamic was going to be between these alumni and these new contestants. And at least you guys got the experience, because that must have been really awesome.
Yeah, I am a huge David Cook fan. Before they even brought him in, they always ask you, okay, who are your favorites? And David Cook was like my number one going into
Yeah.
it. So I was really excited to see him. And it's cool that they gave me the opportunity to have such a long sort of interview with him. And it's always an interesting dynamic, even with him, who's someone who's been doing it forever. He's still a little awkward in front of the camera. And we have to like record the excitement of him coming in a few times. And I remember the cameras were sort of resetting themselves, and he leaned over and he was like, so what do you really want to ask me off camera? Because it's hard to have a natural conversation with somebody when you know you're getting recorded for the whole world to see.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. And they told us a lot of surprises beforehand, and we sort of had to act surprised. But our mentors were a true surprise. We had no idea who they were going to be. So that was what you see on TV is the honest excitement, I guess.
hmm Well, anything that, if you'd like to share, were there any standouts from what David told you? Because, I mean, we obviously didn't get to see any of it.
Yeah, I think I like I said before, I especially when I got to Hollywood, I really felt I don't want to say outcasted, but kind of like the rock group in general. I think there was like 10 of us, maybe 10 or 12 of us. And I'm like, okay, there's not many of us, which means they're not looking for my type of music. I felt like I really didn't sound like anyone. And I'm like, is that a bad thing? Because maybe they're bringing in all these country or pop people because that's what they're looking for and they want more of a pool to choose from. And he told me, if there's 100 people that sing and 99 of them sound the same, who do you think is going to sound different? Who's going to stick in their minds? It's going to be you, the person that is totally different, has a totally different vibe, picks a song that is not on the radio right now, but maybe it brings back a really great memory or whatever it might be. So that definitely stuck with me and helped ease my mind. And I'm like, okay, I'm here for a reason, even though I'm a little bit different than everyone else. Just do what I do and don't try to become something else, like I talked about before.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect example, right? Like he might not have been there like a typical like pop star, but he's still connected with people. And at the end of the day, as you had mentioned earlier, American Idol is about connecting with people, and I think that that's what's so neat about music is that it has the power to do so regardless of genre. If you can find a way to make your songs click, even if it's not a genre that people are used to, sometimes you can sort of get past that and say, well, I'm not a typical pop artist or a country artist, but I have a way of letting my voice kind of shine through regardless of what people expect to hear on the radio.
And I think that's definitely where I went wrong in the duets. I mean, looking back, I'm glad we did what we did and how we did it, and I'm proud of what we sang. But I think I definitely fell victim to like getting really overwhelmed by what everyone else was doing in these big rounds and these big showy things. And I wish that I, just looking back, I would have changed a lot of things if I were to do it again, and sort of stayed in my comfort zone because it had gotten me that far already. So yeah, but you sort of live and you learn, and I'm still glad. I loved my duet partner, and I'm glad that we went with what we went with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck, even making it to the second round of Hollywood Week, because we haven't even gotten through genre challenge, and getting through genre challenge, they cut you guys in half, if I'm correct. So
Yeah.
just to make it through that must have felt pretty amazing.
Well, and it's so funny because I've watched the show for so many years, and you see people like crying on camera, and I'm like, just hold it together, people.
Yeah.
Just it's one song, but then being there.
Oh my
So
God.
if I had made it through another round, I definitely would have cried on camera.
Yeah.
And the day, so when I got through the genre round, we had been filming all day. I sang, I was like one of the second to last groups that sang. And so it was, I don't know, maybe 10 o'clock at night. And we got through, and it was like instantly we were whisked away. We did some social media boomerangs and pictures and all that. And then there was like a winner's bus or a next round bus, whatever you
Yeah.
call it. And we got on the bus, and it was like 11 midnight, whatever it was. And we got to the hotel, and they gave us our partners right then and there. We had, by the time we got to the room where we sort of are filming and choosing our songs, which is what you see on TV, and they did not show how hectic it was on TV. Everyone running to the board and signing up, and
Yeah.
because only so many people can choose the songs, and we don't get the list ahead of time. So when we're looking at the boards, that's that first time we see it. And so by that time, it was midnight. And I think we probably went to bed at like 4. So we didn't get very much time.
Oh
It was
yeah.
stressful. And I think by 11 o'clock the next morning, we were singing our duet song.
Wow. Just before duets. So I know you mentioned you were towards the end of was it day two that you were doing genre challenge?
I think, yeah, it was the second day.
Second day, yeah. So you're sitting through a whole day of filming. Were you in the audience actively? Were you off doing other filming?
Actually, for the genre day, you see me in the audience quite a bit in the show, which I was surprised about. Luckily, I was like right in the front, and it was really cool to just watch the show. Like I was just watching the show and enjoying it, especially knowing that I wasn't having to play that day.
Right.
So you can actually sit back and sort of enjoy it without the stress of being like, okay, I'm coming up next. And looking back, I mean, the top 24 was amazing this year, but there was so many people that didn't even get a second of airtime that like I cried because they were so amazing. And so this is just great what you're doing because there's so many people that are never heard that are like some of the best people I've ever heard sing.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm blown away just because how do you narrow it down to a 24? I mean, the percentage, like, it's a sliver of the people that are there that even get shown. It's bonkers. I mean, amazingly talented people, but like, let's just talk about some of the people that didn't get shown. I mean, who were some standouts for you in that round, watching from the audience? What performances did you remember?
Well, I think Elliot was on your show, right?
Yeah.
I cried when he sang.
Uh,
He sang Hallelujah. And of course, he goes up there. First of all, he's such a cool dude. I was like, this guy isn't even nervous. He
uh,
just has this cool aura going into it. But when he said he was going to sing Hallelujah, I'm like, that's kind of a risk because it's such a great song. How do you change it from the classic? And also, it could sort of like, it could sort of drag out a little bit. Like it's sort of a deeper, sadder song. And when he sang it, I was like, that's the best version I've ever heard that song. And everyone sings that song.
yeah.
So I remember he was great. I became really good friends with someone named Max Embers, who, yeah, he was on another show, Songland. So some people might be familiar
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he sang "Call Me by My Name" by Little Nas.
Oh, I bet he put a twist on it, did
I
he?
know, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you sing that? But he sang it, and I'm like, this is beautiful. Like the people are singing rap songs and making them beautiful somehow. So and Chloe, I mean, she sang Brandy Carlisle, The Joke.
Yep.
And when they didn't put her through, my jaw dropped. I like everyone was standing in standing ovation for her, and they didn't put her through. So they were tough. They were really tough.
God, it almost makes it's like it almost makes me aggravated just like thinking back because I remember talking to Elliot and Chloe and I wish I could have actually witnessed these performances for myself, but it's like it's sad and then it's also probably frustrating to just think about all these people that didn't get aired because if you were a fan of the show and you're frustrated to not watch like your favorites who you did see get through, imagine the feeling of like rooting on somebody who was really good that you actually got to see in person and to have an amazing performance and then to not see them advance. Like that's got to be just an like just the most annoying thing.
Well, at this point, you're with someone, it feels like you know them forever. So maybe we've only known each other now for 2 weeks, but when you spend every single day hours and hours and hours just waiting around, you become quick with people, close with people really quickly.
Yeah.
So it really hurts to see people go home, and it's tough. It gets tougher, and I can't even imagine getting like to the top 24 and you're with people for months and months, and then they leave. And when people leave, it's like you sing on stage. If you don't go through it, you go through the other door, and you're in a car and you're gone. You don't get to say
Right.
people. So it's like you're always sort of on edge. Like, is this the last time we're gonna see each other?
I know. It's like no closure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the best part of the whole experience was just the people that I've met. I still talk to people every single day. Um, and so I feel like that I won because now I can go to Nashville, or I can go to LA, I can go to rural Kentucky and sing with people. And so I feel like I mean, that's just a win to me. That's all
Oh
I want
yeah.
to do is sing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think I said to somebody yesterday that it's almost more like a show called American Idols than American Idol because it's about finding like the one person, but really what I think it becomes at the end of the day is about this collective experience where you get to meet so many other people. What you get out of it is so many of the things besides it being competition. It's like this plural thing, not the singular, oh, like let's narrow it down to one person, but let's leave this experience with all these connections, multiple people that we've now met and connected with.
Yeah, that first initial day of like, okay, these are my competition, like scoping out, that goes away very quickly.
Yeah,
And never after that first day did I feel like I was competing with the contestants. It more just felt like I was competing for attention from the judges
right.
and camera time and things like that. But in terms of the people, there's no animosity. There was never like I had to sing better than you, because in some sense it's not really the best singer anymore, because we're all amazing singers to get to that point. It's just like who's going to sing a song that sparks a memory, or who is going to have a great day, because sometimes you just have an off day when you're singing. Who's going to
Right.
look best, because that's important too. I mean, it's like this whole package that goes into it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's you never know. Like it's sometimes you watch the show and the person who wins, you could see it from the beginning. Other times you had no idea. I think, when you think about who won this year, Noah Thompson, like you think about his story and how he grew over the course of the competition, and he did have a very raw voice that came from a place of not even knowing his potential. Like that to me is somebody who fits the bill of somebody who I think is just very deserving.
Yeah.
It was very
And he
exciting to
was
watch.
super, like, I will say, like, for example, Leah, I love Leah. She's hilarious. And she was a standout from day one. Like, I remember the first time she got on stage, and I was like, and she sang Avril Lavigne, I think it was, Skater Boy.
Yeah, Skater Boy. Oh
And
yeah.
I, even in sort of like the background, the rooms when we're warming up and stuff, she just had such a personality, and everyone gravitated towards her. And I was like, I know she's gonna make it far. And I felt the same way about Hunter Girl. But someone like Fritz and Noah, they were so quiet, and they sort of just like creep from the shadows and
Yeah,
front and center. And you're like, how did I miss this person?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, getting through genre challenge, it sounds like, as you said, it was very overwhelming getting to duets as far as just getting your songs and getting your partners. But I also imagine it was kind of the excitement of finding out who you were going to be partnered with, right? Because they send you to a different room, and then you're waiting to find out who is going to be my partner. So what was that like?
Um, it felt like being chosen for like a sports team.
Yeah.
Person, this person. And I was one of the last people, one of the last groups in the room. And I was sure that they were going to put me with Cole, actually, Cole Hallman.
Uh-huh.
Um, just I felt like we had sort of become friends off camera, and then we just sort of our music, our genres felt like they clicked,
Yeah.
and we were sitting right next to each other, and we were one of the last few people, and I was sure. And then they called me up with Bryce, and I had not met Bryce. So it's like you're meeting this person for the first time, you're trying to get to know them, but also and their style of music, but also you have to learn a song in 2 hours. So it was overwhelming. And luckily we had Bryce's mom, because he was 16. She was so great. She was like, they're like, I think they're from Kentucky or somewhere down south. And she's so cute with her little accent. She was like, I'm going to go get you guys some dinner and
Uh
things. So she was like a godsend. But then on the other hand, because he was 16, we're actually limited on the songs that we could sing. So there's a lot of 18 plus songs. So say we have 30 songs to choose from, maybe half of them are 18 plus, just because based off the content that they
yeah.
are. So we were already sort of limited in that sense. And then we both just we didn't want to take the risk of forgetting lyrics or anything like that. So we wanted to do a song that we both knew really, really well. So that cut it down even more. So even though it feels like you have all these songs to choose from, you are really limited. So we already going into it, him being 16 is like incredible. The voice that he has at 16, like when he's my age, he's going to be the best singer in the world. Like he just has something super unique. And I have to say, Luke loved him, and Luke really didn't want to send him home. And I like had my fingers crossed on stage, because they actually on stage they talked to me first, and they told me I wasn't going through. But then you're still up there with your partner, and you're like, you still want your partner to go through. So Luke was like so on the fence with him, and he was really close to going through to the next round. But I totally understand why they put me with him, because I just think of myself 10 years before that, and he
Mm-hmm.
reminded me a lot of myself. And I felt like, I just wanted to support him the best I could. And at that point, it was all about us being the best we could together. It wasn't like, I need to get through. It was like, I want us both to get through as a pair, because, you just like everyone has the same dream to go through. So there was no like headbutting with the partnerships. I thought we worked really well together. We both wanted each other to be successful. Like if he had an idea for me, he'd be like, you should sing this note, or you should do this, you should do this. And at first we were both going to play guitar. And then we ultimately decided that, okay, we've both played guitar for both rounds, and we want to show them something different. So we both dropped our guitars, which felt so weird.
Yeah.
And I think looking back, maybe I would have kept it. So that's like, once again, just staying true to who I was and where I felt comfortable. But I wanted to try to branch out as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And the working with the vocal coach was scary. They're like very well versed in the industry, and they work with so many people, and like you just want to impress them so much, but also you just learned the song 5 minutes ago, and it's hard to sound your best, of course. So that was a lot, but they were super helpful, and they were the ones that encouraged us to like, okay, maybe try without guitar. At first we weren't going to do a key change, and they pushed us to do a key change, which I'm really excited, or I'm really happy that they did that. I was really excited about it. And then the day of the performance, our vocal coaches were on stage with us when we were practicing, just to help us go through the sort of the movements and any last minute things. So they helped us a ton. Even though we didn't go through, they definitely made us sound better than we
Right.
did initially.
Oh,
Yeah, well, it's cool that we got to work with them. I
yeah.
wish we got to do more, had more time with them.
Uh-huh. Well, it's amazing given how many of you guys were there that they even were able to squeeze in time for everybody, and that they were able to give you all such sound advice and really pay attention to you guys, because I mean, as much as you guys are all worn out from one performance after the other, I mean, they're working with literally hundreds of contestants, and then even the duet round, it's like they're just go, go, go.
I can't, I have no idea how the band does it. Like, so then if you get through the duet round, I think the band probably had about 50 people or 45 or whatever it was, to practice for top 24. Like, how do they learn all those songs? And they don't, like, if they don't mess up, they just don't
Yeah.
mess up. I don't understand. But the cool thing about being on set is like, you never know who's on set. So some of these vocal coaches, like I said, have worked with really incredible people. They have a ton of connections. Or in my case, when I sang in the genre round, I sang in Alanis Morissette, and the pianist on set was actually is her musical director for
Oh,
her
wow.
tour.
Huh.
So to be able to like get the thumbs up from him and sit down and chat with him a little bit, it's like that's something that I could take away from it that is like so amazing. So you just never know who's listening.
Yeah, no, I mean that building that network is so key in any industry, and like to be a musician with like you're around all these behind the scenes people, and it's not just meeting all these other artists, but you never know as important as it is to talk to your fellow musicians. If you talk to the vocal coaches, if you talk to the people who are in the band and you hear who they've worked with, it's like wow, like that advice that they're giving me is coming from like actual like real industry experience. It's got to be mind blowing, and so much in a short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when I first went home, I was like really bummed. Just I didn't want to celebrate it. It didn't feel like a win to me. Going home a lot earlier than I wanted to, but I sat down with my dad, who, like I said, is a musician, and he was like, "You need to just like understand what you've just done. I mean, from 100,000 people to as far as you got is it. I mean, just to be able to get in front of the judges is such a
Yeah.
win." Because I could practice playing my guitar all day long, but I could never get the experience of being in front of cameras like that, being in such like a high pressure situation, being in front of the judges and things like that on such a big stage. And so at first I wasn't really gonna celebrate it at all. And then he started talking some sense into me, and he's like, you can still throw, you didn't air, but you can still throw a golden ticket party. Like you can still do every interview because you were still there and you experienced it just like everyone else. Definitely like something I would encourage anyone who's been a part of the show to do, because there's like I said, there's literally no losing in the situation that we were in.
I'm sure the period between finishing filming Hollywood Week and then when the show first premieres in February, when you know that you didn't make it, but then also not knowing whether or not you're going to air is kind of probably a difficult time. And then like finding out that you're not airing, like I know it's tough and there's no way around that. How do I even ask this in a way that's like comforting, but like how does it feel? Just like what's that emotional process like?
My biggest thing was like, I just so I didn't think people were going to be excited because like I just didn't know it was such, I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know how people would react. And then they put me on the front page of my local newspaper, and people like went wild. I like getting like hundreds of new followers online, and people like messaging me and saying how they were excited, how they're going to vote for me. And one part of me was so excited, and then the other part was like, I don't want to let all these people down.
Oh,
This is really tough. And that's when I talked to my dad, and he was like, just celebrate it as much as you can because people are going to support you either way. And when I had my golden ticket party, I thought maybe like 30 people would show up, and like 300 or 400 people showed up. They had to hire, the fire department
wow.
had to come. It was like a whole thing. So that felt like my like hometown celebration.
Yes. It's amazing.
And actually when I posted about not making it through to the next round, that's when I got the most support. Like the most people had reached out. And even now, you know, like I said, I play a lot of local shows, and I'm seeing so many more people come out and support me. And that was really my goal of the whole thing. I mean, national recognition is great, and I'll take anything that I can get, but local recognition was important to me because that is my job, is to play local shows and to have people come out and to fill a room. So even if I could get 5 more people to come out, that felt
Yeah.
like best to me, which I feel like I'm definitely have been able to do since auditioning.
Well, look at everything that you got out of it. I mean, it's like you overall, it sounds like you never could have expected everything to happen, because just auditioning year after year and then finally making it through and making it farther than you ever had, doing it your way, and then seeing this reaction online and from your town, it's got to feel pretty good despite everything that might have been disappointing about not necessarily making it through at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely encouraging to me. Like, I had really been sort of dragging on releasing new music and things like that. And as soon as I did my audition and I was like around other peers and other people that had the same goal as me. Like, I'm from such a small town that there's not too many other young musicians, trying to create music and things like that. So being around that for the first time, it sort of lit a fire under me and was like, okay, you need to start recording music. You need to be writing music every day. You need to be practicing every day. So I went home, I got in the studio immediately and recorded. So it's my second EP. It's like 6 songs or something like that. But I have had these songs forever and I just have been
Yeah.
sort of waiting around. So it's definitely pushed me to sort of be more productive, I guess, with my music.
For sure. I mean, it's like it's such a weird bubble no matter how far you make it, because even if you win the whole thing, or especially like I can't imagine for the people who made it to the live rounds where you're so used to being in literally like in Hollywood and in the studio for weeks on end, and then to go back home to just like that adjustment.
First time I came home, I like sat down and I had only been gone for 2 weeks and I was
Right.
like, you like can breathe for the first time and you're like, I can say whatever I want and my
Right.
voice is crack and it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of sort of stress came with it, but it's all positive. Like, it's good stress, because if you want to be in this industry, you're going to be under that pressure and stress all the time. So like, it's like, you better get used to it. This is the way to get used to it.
No,
It's just
yeah.
being into it.
Of course. I've heard people say that Hollywood Week is one of the hardest things they've ever had to do. However far you make it in the competition on Idol, or even for artists who don't go down the TV competition route, no matter how you want to get into the business, to have to go through the obstacles along the way, it's just part of it. It's like you get back up, you keep recording new music, you keep playing shows, and it's like you keep on going, right? Because that's all you can do as an artist.
Definitely. And like I said, just being around people, the people I've met, like, it feels like now I'm sort of bonded with these other contestants in a way that I don't know how to explain.
Yeah.
But we've all sort of gone through this similar thing. And I don't know, I hope it fuels some like good content, some good new songs, whatever it might be. Yeah. And I encourage anyone who is, like I said, it's so cliche, but I really encourage anyone who's thinking about it to do it, because there's no negative. Like, I learned so much and I've been playing forever. I've been performing forever and I still learned so much. I mean, it's like you're around all the judges, so many great people. I mean, the judges really do take the time, especially Lionel, who is amazing, to sit down and like answer your questions, make you feel comfortable, things like that.
20 years in and the show's turning 21 next year. It's kind of crazy. Like, we both talked about being fans of the show, and we're going to keep watching, and it'll be cool to see the artists that come through next year. It's all very exciting. But Natalia, I want to give people a chance to follow you and know where to stream your music. And I want you to just let people know how they can stay in touch with everything.
Yes. So I have a website. It's just my name, nataliabonfini.com. And there's not too many Natalia Bonfini. So even if you misspell it, you'll be able to find it on my social medias, or just my name. And if you're ever in Massachusetts, you could look me up and come out to a show. Or if you live in the New England area and you want me to come out to your favorite place, I'll come and play for you.
Cool. Well, guys, if you enjoy this podcast, make sure that you follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Unaired Podcast. You can find clips from the show, info on our upcoming guests. You can also subscribe, rate, leave a review wherever you are listening. You can also watch these interviews on YouTube. Just type in American Idol Unaired. Natalia, thank you so much for being a part of the show. And guys, have a great day.